Hello, and welcome to episode 148 of Random Encounter, the RPG Fan Podcast. I am your host, Derek Heemsbergen. I'm Embryonix on Twitter. That's at EMBRYONX. And today I'm joined by a small but still star-studded crew of folks. I've got Peter Triesenberg today, folks.
What's up, folks? It's your boy HP back at it again with the fish people.
Straight out of Grand Rapids. And we've also got the freshly returned from abroad, Greg Delmage.
Oui, salut, je suis Greg Delmage.
Thanks, and I'm Predamange. Isn't that
Right.
a restaurant?
Je de bébé.
Oh yeah. What's the other one? The bread place. What's it called? Damn it, I'm blanking.
The bread place?
Yeah, there's like the name of a bread restaurant. Au Bon Pain.
Where is that? Is that
You didn't know about that?
No.
Okay, forget
I
it.
should
It's
have
like a
gone to
bakery.
it.
I'm just trying to be like offensive to any and all French people who may be listening to the show on accident. So I kid. Well, guys, we have a smaller crew today, but we're not lacking for quality. It's been a little while since we've had, I think, either of these guys in the show, so it's going to be cool to get their perspectives
Accurate.
on what they've been playing. It's been kind of a whirlwind for a lot of us in a lot of ways. I think Peter and I were discussing pre-show about all the stuff that's been going on in our respective lives, and then Greg just got done with a huge amount of stuff. And I guess I just want to check in a little bit first. So, Peter, have things been going well with you?
Yeah, just been busy with work, real life responsibilities, looking for new apartments and whatnot. It's been a time, but I'm making it work and playing some quality games to keep myself occupied. So that's I can do.
The way to do it. That's the
And
way
I've
to
got
do it.
And I've got a kitty, so that's nice.
And you've got a kitty. Is it Mo?
Squeaks, my girlfriend's cat.
Ooh.
She's
New?
No, she's had her for a while now, but I haven't been getting to see her a lot more recently. She's all white. She's all white and has polydactyl thumbs on her front paws.
Squeak.
She's a cutie.
We stand Squeak in this house. And then Greg, I know you've been working on a movie, which is, I'm sure, a very cheap endeavor, right? You haven't spent any money on that.
No, not at all. We didn't spend any of our savings whatsoever on this. Yeah, we back when we applied to a local production grant thing called Story Hive, funded by TELUS for anyone in North America that has TELUS. They gave us $10,000 to make a film, which you're like, sweet, that sounds like a lot. It's not a lot to make a movie. So a lot of our own money and a lot of really nice people who gave lots of favors went into making this film and contributed probably the most stressful month I've ever had in my life, which was June.
Oof.
Trying to make a film happen, be a producer on this, build sets and all that sort of stuff, and putting out fires constantly, and also trying to plan for a trip to go to Paris, which was a surprise engagement gift, which I think I've talked about in the past on the podcast, to my now fiance Annette.
I was going to say, she said no, right? Yeah.
Totally. So I went with my mom. No, no, Annette and I went, but obviously when she applied for this film grant, I had not proposed yet because I had been planning a big elaborate proposal surprise. So when she applied for this, and I had already booked the trip for 2 weeks in July, and this film is due on August 7th, and we found out that we won the grant in like May. I was like, well, I should probably tell her because Annette's producing, directing, and starring in it. So it kind of was important. So it was a lot on our plates to kind of throw this at her, which obviously she was overjoyed, and we were both looking so forward to having the break to get away. But it made never make a film and then leave the country for 2 weeks, FYI.
Yeah, right. Because I'm sure there's no loose ends you had to wrap up or anything like that.
No, not at all.
Right. Yeah. I'm really glad to hear that everything has generally gone well for you.
It has, though. It's really worked out.
Or you wrapped shooting, I mean, right? I don't know my film terms.
We did it. We wrapped our film on July 1st, Canada Day, and then got ourselves very slowly out of our space where we had built our set, which was in a gymnasium. We built essentially a 2-story apartment, 2 separate levels.
Mm-hmm.
And got out of there, and then we flew on July 4th to Paris. So,
wow, how patriotic on both counts.
It was, especially since we were there for the World Cup victory in France, and they go bananas. I mean, félicitations at anyone from France who's listening, but y'all are crazy.
Yeah, I mean, But wasn't this like a monumental win for them or something?
It was. Which is funny too, because there's a station, because we started to get really familiar with Metro, trying to get around Paris, since we pretty much focused our entire 2 weeks on being in Paris. And 2 weeks, let me tell you, isn't enough for just Paris. It's got a lot.
Oh yeah.
But there's one stop called, I think it's called Les Étoiles, which is something to do with, I think, their victory, the last World Cup they won. And since we stopped there another time, now there's 2 stars. Like basically like the day after, like they were already on that and had like a fresh new plaque and everything on there. It's crazy. So
I'm sure there was somebody was like some sculptor or craftsperson was like waiting behind the scenes, like, do I make it? Do I make it? Do I make it? Or they probably had it prepared anyway.
They probably already had it prepared, and he just would have been very sad throwing it in the garbage. But it's like in like even in like, you know, look at Stanley Cup. Like you can't imagine when one of those teams wins that they had all these victory hats for the other team, and those just all go in the garbage. It's so wasteful, but they have to be ready. So I imagine, yeah, like you said, someone was just sitting there in the wings with this plaque, hoping to put it on.
Yeah.
And
Well, congrats to France, and I'm glad that they got to celebrate, and hopefully nobody was, you know, like injured or hurt in the rioting.
We'll avoid that, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Well,
Happy
good.
fun times.
I'm glad that you're back safe,
Me too.
and that you had a great time, and that things in your life are going well. You deserve it.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that later.
Yeah, and let's talk video games. So, one that we're going to discuss today, probably the one that I'm looking forward to discussing the most. I have been holding off on getting this game because it is available for a few platforms already: PC, PS4, I want to say Xbox One. I'm not sure. But it is coming to the Switch, I believe, later this summer, and I am chomping at the bit to get my hands on it. But Greg, you've been playing Moonlighter.
I have been, and
Yes.
it's pretty rad so far. I picked it up for review, which, thanks RPG fans, the first game you've given me for review, and I'm pretty stoked about it.
Which
And
console?
I got it on the PS4.
Okay. And this is the sort of like I don't know how randomly generated it is, but it's like a dungeon crawler mixed with a reciteer item shops running kind of simulation.
More
So
or
it's like,
less.
yeah, Zelda plus you run a shop. So
Essentially.
what's it like?
Yeah, basically, if you like hoarding, this is the game for you.
Yeah, I never use my elixirs, so
I'm interested.
It's it definitely has its flavors of every roguelike and of Diablo with its top-down perspective of looking, especially for me coming off of Minish Cap. It has a very
it has a very
art
Minish Cap
aesthetic.
vibe. Yeah.
Absolutely, with bouncy sprites, a lot of what they call like the dangly bits of like flags. When my friend who's worked in game design, she says any like flags that wave in the wind, they're called dangly bits. It's weird. At any rate, there's a lot of that going on. Like it's a very lush, vibrant environment, much like how Minish Cap looked when I talked about it on Retro. And apparently, the roguelike Zelda games are my thing at RPG Fan right now. Anyhow.
Hey.
So it comes with a pretty basic like startup, jump in, like any of those kind of games. You know, you got your hero who is exploring these dungeons, gets knocked out, has an old man that's like, I need to teach you how to do things. With straight up with like a direct reference to Zelda when he gives him an item. So they're not pulling any punches of saying where things have come from and their inspiration. But then there's that added aspect, like you said, of Reciteer, of having a shop. So when you're going into these procedurally generated dungeons with new monsters spawning wherever you're going, you're collecting items in the night and then bringing them back home to open your shop the next day. So then that comes into this shop management mini game of stocking items, adjusting prices, and then you have to read the people and base their on their reactions how much you can buy or how much you can sell things for. So if you set like a dewdrop for 50 gold and they'll make some sort of emoji face of like not happy, so then you'll try and adjust the pricing so that way they'll want to buy more of those items more frequently, and you can create a demand. And it's got an actually fairly involved economy system in terms of looking into your notebook, figuring out what's selling for what and what's popular at the time to generate more income for yourself to then put into the town to upgrade it, a la Harvest Moon idea.
Okay. Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, it's got that vibe of please reinvigorate our town, as like the old Harvest Moons kind of had. So I like that vibe, like here, inheriting your parents' shop in this old town that's kind of gone nowhere because no one's exploring these dungeons anymore. So it's up to you to kind of reinvigorate it and put money into the town or into the shop to expand your inventory to sell and the kind of upgrades you can give yourself. So all that to basically prolong your roguelike experience of now I've got better armor, better equipment, better this, that, the other thing, so I can go further and further and further and explore why are these dungeons here.
I love that. Yeah, and back to the point where you mentioned that there was a reference to The Legend of Zelda with the way that the old man gave you an item. I'm curious about the tone of the game or the writing or the script. Does it feel, is it really comedic or does it balance comedy or is there a lot of writing?
It's sparse on its writing. It's I find it's fairly genuine. Like it's definitely it errs on the side of more lightheartedness, a la Legend of Zelda and such like that. But it's not full on.
It's not like a parody.
No, it's not a parody, and it's not
Yeah.
full on silly. Like, and not to say that Swords of Ditto is fully silly, but it's definitely a goofier kind of. Just to reference something recently that I've played.
Yeah, the reason why I ask is because there is a game called Evoland, and there's an Evoland 2 as well, and I reviewed.
Yeah, that's like the one. It's like a bunch of references to other games, right?
And oh my god, I found it abhorrent. I hated it because it's nothing but like word for word or screen for screen lifted jokes from old games without any context whatsoever, and they're just like spewing them at you rapid fire. Like, remember this, remember this, remember this, remember this.
It's totally reliant on nostalgia. I've been playing it and I enjoy it for what it is, but it's definitely flimsy.
Yeah, flimsy is a good word for it. So yeah, that a concern of mine is that Moonlighter might have ended up like that, but
no, it definitely feels very like people who like Adventure Time and stuff like that will still find its mild cheek, amusing. Like, you'll go into a dungeon entrance where they're like, I'm so interested in a dungeon. You'll find a dungeon camp and there'll be journals to kind of give little feedback on people who've come before. And sometimes it'll be just like a simple tone of like, why are these dungeons here? Like all these people are here exploring the dungeons just to get rich and this and that. But I want to know why. Like, why do these exist? Why are they always changing? So that's kind of a little more serious and interesting. Conversely, you'll come across one. Someone's like, so I got attacked by a rock today. That was weird. But you know what? I just hit that rock right back. So it's got like, again, some mild amusement, but mostly it takes itself, it all works in taking itself seriously, and it's all humor in the context of the game, not to give a big old wink to you outside of that one like reference so far I've seen.
That sounds pretty well balanced. So
it is.
you mentioned upgrading your shop and stuff, which is the thing that I look forward to, I think, the most, because I really love that kind of addictive loop of progressing or expanding outwards from your, like, I love being able to build up a home base of sorts in any kind of game. Mm-hmm. So is the main resource in the game money that you earn and then you just like expend money, or do you have to get certain materials as well? And how does it affect the shop?
So you are going into each dungeon. Right now, I've barely touched the surface because I was hoping to get more into it, but leaving for 2 weeks to Paris kind of put a hole in it, my progress. So getting back into it to get caught up a bit today with it. I've only kind of done the one first dungeon you have access to called the Golem Dungeon, and then there's 4 other ones that I'm assuming you'll eventually get access to. And all the items that you find from the monster drops are all very much themed to each dungeon. And that builds with a crafting system. So like you said, money is the main thing to buy upgrades, to buy shop upgrades, to buy new spots in town for other businesses to set up. And then you go there to spend money to the woman who makes potions and enchantments. Like you'll give her 4,000 gold, but also she'll require the crafting mechanic of, you need this crystal gem thing in order to get the enchantment upgrade, or you'll need these slime goop drops to get potions, for example, or go to the blacksmith and you'll need iron and some sort of cloth material and something else to upgrade your broom to a spear or this or that or whatever. So there is a crafting component, and the items that you have matter in that.
Okay, good. And crafting not just for your own equipment, but say like, I want to expand my shop to have 8 slots to sell stuff, and I need 100 gold and a golem's eye or whatever. Or is it
so far it seems to be just money, but I haven't actually had the opportunity to upgrade my shop. But from what I've seen on the shop, the hub board where you do the upgrades, they're just asking for money.
Okay.
It seems like the equipment and stuff is strictly for you, or the gear, crafting gear is simply to craft more stuff at the shops, which you can sell. You can go and build a sword and then sell in the shop, or it's just for your own purposes to sell and use.
Sure. And how's the balance, or how's the feel of the combat and the action?
It's It's tricky. It definitely has a slight learning curve with the skill, which is good because I like a game that rewards you getting better at it. It's not super boring to just sit there and mash away. Like there's definitely the odd enemy where you can just stand in the doorway, they'll come at you and you can slash away and you'll kill them. But other enemies require a little more use of the dodge roll mechanic to get around them. And certain weapons require a little more strategy too, because like your sword and shield, you can block a bit, but it seems to be limited. Like I could sit there with someone launching projectiles at me, I'll take like 2 hits and then I'll get bounced back. And I presume that's just because it's A, too weak, or B, I'm just not skilled enough with it yet. I haven't explored that enough. So I found that interesting. So you can't just sit there and hide behind the shield that you just got. So that kind of implies you need to get better with it or it needs to get improved to take more hits. And then conversely, like the other weapon you start with is your broom, which is one in the spear family tree. And it requires a bit of strategy in order to, like, you can just do quick jabs, but it has like a kind of, each weapon has 2 different attack options. So it has like a charge up that you can kind of run people through with. So that requires a little more control of the direction and timing and space management. So I find that kind of neat that there's something there for everybody, because there seems to be 5 different types of weapons with gloves, a bow, a giant sword, spear, and then the sword and shield kind of option. So it lets you kind of experiment with different play types, which is really neat. And you can have 2 different weapons going at the time, so you can swap between them depending on your needs.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's cool that they're going so in depth with that, because I feel like a lot of these sim RPG like hybrids, like the combat is sometimes really bare bones, like in Rune Factory or whatnot. Like it's fun. The dungeon crawling is pretty fun, but there's not really a whole lot to the combat once you get it down.
And it can be very stilted. Like I especially remember in Rune Factory Frontier, like it can be very frustrating to try and aim and such, and it's got such a weird lag time to it.
That was like a simulation game with combat tacked on as an afterthought.
Exactly.
That's what it felt like. This one is clearly built around its combat, because it is definitely like your main way of exploring the dungeons. It's not, it doesn't take the page from Zelda of having puzzles and such. The puzzle is mostly just navigating the map and using your items to your advantage, so to speak. But aside from that, there's not too much else as far as like, oh, go and push this switch here and drag this block over here, or anything like that. Like there's parts where like the floor will give away, or chasms that you have to jump over, which is funny too, because this game has still managed to surprise me. Like there was one time where I accidentally rolled into a hole this morning, which a la Zelda usually resets you back to the door and you take damage. But I actually found like a secret place at the bottom of the well.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. And then it was just like an empty chest and I didn't think about it. And then later on, so I started having like, I'm now honestly always going into rooms being like, should I jump in there?
Yeah, right. Yeah, because you never know.
You pick up cues that tell you, oh, I think that's one I could jump into. I think, I'm not sure. And then you discover what these things mean. I found another room too that even had a different thing at the bottom of it that I haven't discovered its use for. It's interesting. There's a lot of nice mysteries in it, and sometimes the townsfolk will enlighten you to stuff, and sometimes it's just discovering things in journals and past writings of other explorers to try and piece together what these things mean.
Yeah, it sounds like from your description, it's at least a little bit less esoteric and maybe more structured than the Swords of Ditto, which is, I'm getting, doing the thing where I'm comparing to other games, but this does have a lot of elements of Reciteer and of games like Zelda. So Swords of Ditto is the most recent one we both played that comes to mind that plays similarly. So it, and my complaint with Swords of Ditto was that it felt like it wasn't structured enough, or that I didn't really have a strong home base to come back to. And Moonlighter nails that.
Yeah, the Swords of Ditto lacks the roguelike base expansion kind of mechanic that a lot of roguelikes have. It mostly just relies on you, doing save MacGuffins in order to save your MacGuffins. Whereas Moonlighter, you have like your home base, your chest, your shop that you can always have some structure to go back to. It's not just like, well, you're dead, figure it out.
Well, sucks to be you. And I love that. Oh, I can't wait for this to come out. I was looking at their Twitter just now to see what the like if there was an update on the Switch release date, and I don't see anything recently. The last I heard was they just said coming soon to Switch as of like a month ago or something. So
that could be 2018, or they could pull a Kingdom Hearts and come out in the 13th month of 2018.
Yeah, not the 13th month. Well, they did say like coming soon. I think they said coming this summer. So
okay, so we maybe could expect it as late as like the end of August, maybe.
Yeah, I would hope August or so. And I think there's a physical edition too, which I'm hear me typing while I look this up on Amazon, but okay, I see there's a listing on Amazon for September 25th for the physical edition, but the digital might release before that. So
Which that box art looks
Right.
swell, so may as well get it.
it's so good. Yeah, you'll notice the header image if you've clicked on the podcast from the rpgfan.com main page. We're using kind of the main art for Moonlighter as our podcast header because it is so good.
It really is. Like like I said, the charm of the artwork is what drew me in initially to this game back when it was on my radar, and I was just like, "Hey, can we review this?" And they're like, "Sure." And then here we are reviewing it. So
I'm glad you are. I look forward to reading it.
ditto.
Yeah, but not the swords of.
Or the Pokemon.
Oh right, yeah. He gets around.
Yeah.
We'll talk Pokemon actually in a little bit, but before that, I wanted to get Greg's thoughts on one more game that he's been playing because let's just make you do all the work at once here, Greg. You have been playing a game that I know virtually nothing about besides the name and what Peter told me earlier on in the show, which is Battle Chasers Night War. Is that right?
Correct. I mean, this is my, I guess, comeuppance for having been off the show for so long. Battle Chasers Night War is, as Peter was saying, and as I've known before, is brought to us by it's Airship. Blah, I'm forgetting their name right now.
I think it's Airship Studios.
Airship Syndicate.
Airship Syndicate. It looks
Yeah,
like.
Airship Syndicate developed it. It's published by THQ Nordic, so it's got some good pedigree behind it. Joe Madureira, who's a big comic book writer and artist working mostly with Marvel, has also done his own comic book called Battle Chasers, which now has got developed into Battle Chasers Night War, which came out on the PS4 and Xbox 360 and I think Steam back in October, and it is coming to Switch. It's one that RPG Fan passed over at some point, just people not having time, I guess, and I randomly picked it up. I was on sale on PSN and was really digging on it and really do want to get a review out for it sooner than later, which will hopefully come in time for its Switch release, because the art style, again, is something that drew me in. It's
pretty Western, yeah.
It is, but it's a Westernized JRPG, which is really neat. They definitely took some pages from a lot of the JRPGs of yore. It's got a really neat initiative sidebar, a la like Final Fantasy X, which I like. You can see how your moves shift your initiative, your turn order, so that can be part of your strategy, which I like, that strategic element to the classic side-to-side active time battle, or whatever the established by Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. That classic JRPG. You're on the one side, they're on the other, although they switched it up by having the party on the left and bad guys on the right.
Gasp.
Right?
I guess they were like, we want to be different. Maybe it's on this hemisphere things are flipped or something, right?
Like,
that's how it works.
It's a Western JRPG. You read left to right. So
yeah, exactly.
Not like that crazy JRPG where it goes right to left. Am I right?
Oh, we don't know about that.
But it's clear that where its roots lie, but it also feels like it's got its mashup of a lot of style anyone familiar with Torchlight is going to find in there. It's beautiful, very very lavish modeled sprites that all feel very much like they could have been pulled right out of like the Torchlight world, right down to the color scheme. It's a very vibrant color palette in this very big fantasy world. You've got an overworld map that you adventure along, and random encounters show up for you. Like, you know you're going to be getting into them, so you can plan it out, but you don't know exactly what you're going to be encountering. They also have a bit of a spin on the encounters, not just with the mechanics of you're on the left and the right, and there's the initiative, but they also have it that you can get into these battles that will kind of go in waves from time to time, so that kind of changes up your strategy of thinking, not just like, oh, I'm just going to wipe this tiny little party. It's like, oh, there's more. So you kind of have to weigh how you're going to expend your HP, your abilities, and stuff like that a little more.
Oh, we were just talking about that in Bravely Second, I believe, on the last episode.
Oh.
About how Bravely Second expanded on Bravely Default's battle system by having kind of like chain battles where you have to conserve your turn, your BP or whatever, brave points. So
it's exactly like that in a lot of ways. And you get similar actually to Bravely Default, I haven't played Bravely Second myself, but Bravely Default had the thing too, like certain strategies in battle could net you better rewards at the end of the battle too. And similarly,
Okay.
they brought that into this too. So if you can do excessive damage, for example, to wipe out a party, one of the enemy party members, you'll get a bonus DXP for that. So I think that's a kind of a nice way to. It just brings a lot of nice new strategy to an old tried format,
Yeah.
which makes it feel a lot more fresh. And like all the animations are very visceral and very well animated, so you feel like every hit matters. And even when your party gets hit, like it makes you, oh no. So
Yeah, Joe Madureira's artwork is off the hook. Like his I was a big fan of his Uncanny X-Men run from a while back, and Battle Chasers itself too. It's just like it was a really popular series. And they actually when the game came out, they actually published some new comics too. So that was exciting.
Cool. And so this is something that anybody could jump into without experience with Battle Chasers as a franchise,
very
right?
minimal. It definitely will, like myself, for example, it's made me want to now go find out more, because you do feel like you're jumping in media res to the story. It gives you a little bit of like, this is who they are, this is what they're doing, but it feels like this party has been adventuring together before, so you kind of want to know like, well, what's the story there? Like, how do these people find each other? So it definitely makes you want to know more about it. I haven't gotten super far into it yet, but I imagine some more of that backstory will come up a bit for people who haven't gotten into the comic books. But it has inspired me now to want to go track down the comics, because I want to see more about these characters' developments and their how they develop as people, but also how they've come together as a team.
Gotcha.
That's always a good sign with media like that, when you play something or read something and you want to find more. That's always, I think.
Yeah, it definitely has made me want for more, not only of the game but of the world itself.
Interesting.
I've been interested in Night War since I think I saw it a couple E3s ago, and the team was very excited about it. They were name dropping like Suikoden and Grandia when they were talking about their inspiration, and that was like yep, okay, these guys get it.
Yeah.
Plus, I think a lot of the staff that worked on it used to work for Vigil Games, so it's the same team that did Darksiders.
That makes sense.
Darksiders will forever be my favorite, most underrated game franchise from the PS3, Xbox.
Which Madureira did art for as well.
Yep, same. So yeah, there's a bit of cross pollination there. So yeah, no, I'm glad to hear you're liking it, Greg. I want to check it out myself.
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty happy with what I've gotten so far. I'm excited to get through more. Also, to mention too, this one is fully voice acted, where Moonlighters is not, and the acting is so far really solid, and all the characters, even the NPCs, are just very interesting people to interact with. Even though they're just there to do their thing, and they'll only kind of come up and develop their character in certain side quests things. But they all seem like fully fleshed out people who aren't just here's the thing, go do it.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder how many of those are established personalities from the comics or something.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, this is a game that I would have just looked over, honestly, had I not talked about it tonight here on this podcast. I would have been like, okay, yeah, I don't really know anything about it. So listen, this is the sound of me adding it to my wish list. Are you ready? There we go.
Well, it's definitely something I could see as what I've gotten to know of you, Derek. Like, you're definitely very geared towards the JRPG aesthetic, and looking at this very clearly Western aesthetic, I would not be surprised for you to be like, whatever. This looks like a
Well, I just didn't realize it played like a JRPG, because I'm art style is of course very important to me.
Yep.
But if it plays in a fun way, like it sort of aligns with my taste or whatever, then I'm probably game to check it out. Or if it's just polished, it doesn't have to be something that I've played before, as long as it's good. I'm trying to think of instances of like this. It's not at all the same, but I remember when I played Mass Effect 2 for the first time, I expected nothing from it, and I like fell so deeply into it that I just binged it for a whole weekend, played it, beat it in the course of 2 days. And it's just like, as long as the game is good, I don't care if it's Western or Japanese or whatever. I just I didn't even realize this was really like a turn-based RPG. I saw the name, I assumed it was some kind of like action-y game that looked kind of like Torchlight, and then I was like, all right, whatever. Yeah, it's probably not for me.
Right.
But
and I assumed the same thing until I started playing it too and got in like my first battle. I was like, oh, this is okay. I'm totally down with this. It's a definite hybrid of dungeon crawling a la Torchlight and Diablo, but also with the trappings of Final Fantasy when you get into battle, and a bit of even like Chrono Trigger with being able to see enemies on the map in order to encounter them or dodge them when you are in the actual dungeons themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, it has the same sort of mechanics too, with certain moves that will hit enemies that are closer to each other in their arrangement or not. So it's got a lot of additional depth that pays a lot of homage to a lot of JRPGs of yore, but still defining its own style for sure.
Sweet. I love that. It seems like we've got something of an influx of those lately with games like Octopath out, but as long as they're all carving out their own space and doing their own thing, I think there's plenty of room for them.
Agreed.
Yeah.
As long as we're talking about games with Joe Madureira art, though, I think that Darksiders 3 might be the first game that I'm like really excited about, but also really worried about.
What's that?
Because I've been really the first two Darksiders games, all of them take inspiration from other games, but what they've shown of Darksiders 3 so far looks very Dark Souls inspired.
Because hasn't it always played like Legend of Zelda E or something? I thought I've heard in the past.
The first game was basically the Legend of Zelda with God of War combat.
Okay.
The second game is that, but with a Diablo loot system kind of tacked on. So they've always chased trends. Like they even got Jesper Kid to do the soundtrack for Darksiders 2. Like, oh, Skyrim's popular now. We really, really need to make an RPG, guys. But I'm perfectly willing to give it the benefit of the doubt because I do like this franchise a lot. But the first gameplay demo they showed was really bare bones, and I'm just like, we'll see. I see some familiar elements, like they were solving puzzles and fighting enemies and all that stuff. But it's a more seamless. Like the combat was like more one-on-one encounters with circle strafing and waiting for openings than like bloody button mashy combo-y goodness like from the first couple games. So I'm definitely going to be there and giving it a shot. I think even I volunteered, I think, to review it if we decide to do that for the site.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I'm hoping. I like the series. I'd like to see it come back.
I feel like when Darksiders 2 came out, I was working at GameStop, which was forever ago in my mind. So like the gap has been so big between the two. Because it was an early era PS3 game, right?
Yeah, it was. And then like THQ like went under, and then they got acquired by Nordic Games, which got rebranded to THQ Nordic. Like it's been a long ride of with this series. Like just wondering if they're ever even gonna make a third one. So
yeah.
Well, if their success with Battle Chasers is an indication, hopefully they're on the right path. And it is coming to Switch as well, as I think I mentioned. I can't remember if I said that, but
so
that's great.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, hoping for the best.
I imagine they'll probably do some sort of Darksiders port as well for the first two to Switch, and then Darksiders 3 will get there as well.
Darksiders 2 was on Wii U. So
oh my god.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot.
It was a Wii U launch title, yeah.
And even then that was like late in its life. Right?
It was.
Yeah, right. I think that was I think that was a year after release.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was breathe life into it, that sort of thing.
All right, well, fingers crossed for them. I hope you end up liking it too. I want to hear more about it on the show.
Yes, same for sure.
Yeah. So, Peter, I'm going to shift over to you and talk about what you've been playing recently. You've been playing several games from what it sounds like, and so what, you're digging into the backlog for Retro Encounter and playing some Shadow Hearts, right?
Yep, been playing the first Shadow Hearts. Dug out the PS2, and I got an old CRT off of Facebook Marketplace that's been working out for me. And
heck yeah.
That's the only way to do it, man. I tried playing Digital Devil Saga on an HD TV, and I thought my retinas were gonna like burn out. But Shadow Hearts 1 is really good so far. I'm enjoying it. I don't really want to go too in depth on that because we'll be talking about that soon on Retro Encounter, that other podcast that we do. But,
right, which is about to usurp me because, well, I say me, but like this show, because we're on episode 148, and you guys are coming up on 150, and Random has been around like 5 times as long.
That weekly schedule, Mike is really pushing that.
He's a beast.
He really is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's really good. I love the long story short, I love the early 1900s setting. It's not often you see a JRPG that's like really this inspired by, historical events, and also gives it this really unique gothic flair. I like the spin on turn-based combat with the Judgment Ring. I really like the characters. I wasn't expecting to I wasn't expecting the localization and like the writing effort to be so solid for a game that came out in 2001. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um,
I
and
remember
I'm
it being really, just to cut a word from Greg's jib. Is that a thing you can say? I'm hawking a word from you. It's
I said it.
cheeky. No, I feel like Yuri especially is obviously he's very sardonic, and
Uh-huh.
everything that he says is laced with a little bit of venom or cheekiness, and it comes through in the script. And I feel like a lot of the NPCs carry that as well. That kind of I don't know. There's kind of like a venomous tinge to a lot of the
Yeah,
writing.
like it's got some tongue in cheek going to it. But it's also like I know that the series as a whole kind of has a trajectory in terms of its comedy, but the first game seems to have like we've got this kind of goofy humor, but it's yeah, like you said, tinged with that. It's got a blackness to it, like it's tinged
Hmm.
with dark humor, and I really kind of dig on that. I don't think I've ever played a game that has quite this unique an atmosphere.
It's very unique, yeah, and the series does get lighter as it goes, but there are still elements of darkness. Especially, I think Shadow Hearts 2 probably balances the humor and the dark stuff the best. And then so like 1 is the darkest, 2 is a little bit more balanced, and then 3 really goes in on the humor, but there's still some really messed up stuff in 3. So
Yeah, and I plan on playing through the series over the course of this year. I figure as long as I have the PS2 out, then before I put it back in the closet, I might as well get through this, play all the games I have for
oh,
it.
most def. Is this your first time playing any of them?
Yes, it is. I've been trying to find copies of them for ages, and I was able to get. I got a hold of Covenant at a local game store, and then thanks to the lovely Steph Sabidlo, I was able to get the other 2 games.
Oh my
So
God.
thank you, Steph.
Is there anything she can't do?
I don't think there is. I think that if we set a limitation, she would find a way to surpass it.
Well, the limit does not exist when it comes to Step Sibilo, so
Truly, truly.
yeah. And then, so besides Shadow Hearts, you've been trying to 100% an older title in anticipation of an upcoming one. Is that right?
Yeah, I've been playing a lot of games, but yeah, for real. Yeah, that Kingdom Hearts 3 blowout at E3 really got me going because I love this series and just absolutely adore it. So
As your Google Hangouts icon will indicate to us right now.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about Aqua getting Norded?
Aqua got Norded. I want her to step on me.
That was a pretty great video, I'm not gonna lie. And I didn't even know anything of what was going on. I definitely had to do some Google searches like, what does Norted mean? Who is Aqua with my old man glasses?
I think the fan base made up a word like the second that trailer dropped. But no, I'm excited to see how this all pans out. Like Kingdom Hearts' story is Byzantine and crazy and really should not work as well as it does, IMO. But
Accurate.
I really find it engaging, and I'm excited to see it concluded. But since I was really feeling the hype, I decided to dust off the 1.5 plus 2.5. Well, dust off. I have it digitally on my PS4. The collection of all the games and play.
It's a figurative dusting off. Okay.
Right. I dusted off the controller.
There you go.
And play Kingdom Hearts 2 again because I hadn't played it in a few years. And I was initially not intending to complete it. Like I was like, okay, I'm just gonna play through it really quick and breezy, take a break from Breath of the Wild, just you know. And then we were getting ready to do the Super Boss episode for Retro Encounter, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah.
And it was really fun. I'm not quite finished with because the only thing I have to complete is Jiminy's Journal, which has 2 separate categories for mini games and missions, which means you have to get a certain score in those mini games, which is kind of annoying. So I'm kind of hovering at like 98% if you want to get technical. But
Unacceptable. I expect 100% or nothing.
I'll get there eventually.
You're never going to get to SGDQ this way, Peter. Come on.
California. I want to go to California.
Good reference.
But yeah, I got to fight. So I fought Lingering Will, which was a really intense, really exciting boss fight. I did all the Mushroom Heartless. Never again.
Oh, aren't those the ones that are super evasive or something? I don't remember.
You have to do like a bunch of really weird gimmicks and very specific setups to get a certain number of points with each one. And they all have a weird different gimmick. Like one is like you have to keep it in the air a certain amount of times. You have to keep it in the air and hit it without it touching the ground. Otherwise, it ends the mission.
Fun.
But like you have to keep it in the air for like 80 plus hits to get a good score. Which requires you to equip like the Fatal Crest Keyblade, which lets your combo go on infinitely at the cost of your finishing move, and a bunch of other abilities to make sure that you aren't gonna accidentally juggle it away from you, and even then it will still like randomly bounce geography, and it's a pain. It is a right pain, the things we do for 100% completion, I'm telling you.
Okay, so I want you to rate this on a scale of 1 to dodging lightning on the Thunderplanes.
It's oh, ow. I felt that in my soul.
Yeah.
That is a what? That is a 9.
Ooh, that bad, huh? I would say, and then like the Chocobo game where you have to get a perfect time. For me that would be like an 8 on that scale.
Yeah, I'd say a couple of the Mushroom Heartless have really easy gimmicks that you can exploit. But some of them are just like that juggling one took me like I had to like take a break. I like take a walk because I was getting like, nope, this is gonna result in blood and anguish.
Yeah, the Rob Steinman way of game playing.
I am a student of the Rob Steinman School of Game Analysis. But you also get to fight. One cool thing they added to Kingdom Hearts 2 that I never really touched on was the data organization fights.
For Final Mix?
Yeah, so where you get to refight all the organization members, including the ones that were killed in Chain of Memories. They redesigned them and gave them whole new boss fights with new mechanics.
Yeah, that's something I was always bummed about in Kingdom Hearts 2 is that the ones from Castle Oblivion just like vanished, basically.
Yeah. And they're back in Final Mix, and their fights are really cool. Like they add really unique, because all the organization fights kind of have a unique little gimmick to them. But these ones in particular, like Marluxia, the Scythe, the main villain from Chain of Memories, in Kingdom Hearts 2, his gimmick is that he casts Doom on Sora, but that Doom meter will only deplete with every time he lands a hit. So you have like 70, a count of like 80 on top of your head, and every time he hits you, it takes a point off. So you have to really learn his patterns and how to block his combos so you can get a moment to maybe restore some of that count from him. It's a really fun back and forth that I really enjoyed.
Okay, cool.
And the data organization fights are remixes of those fights. So they take their fight, they remix their patterns, give them some new attacks. They'll go into their desperation phase a lot sooner. So they're just more challenging versions of those fights in general. And those were a lot of fun to take down, except for Demeks, who now goes into his Dance Water Dance. You have to clear all my forms 4 times in a row before the actual fight starts.
Oh.
So that was fun.
Kingdom Hearts has never been one to shy away from excess in any form, so
no, it really isn't. But honestly, I think it's a gratifying challenge to rise up to. If you go for the optional stuff in Kingdom Hearts 2, there's a whole area.
If you ever need any help, just talk to Stephen Meyerink, who has probably done all of it on Proud, Critical, whatever, 100,000 times.
I did send Stephen a couple messages being like, "Hey, so how do I do this?"
Yeah. That man is a machine. He's insane.
He very, very much so.
Yeah. So you've enjoyed your experience revisiting Kingdom Hearts 2?
For sure, yeah. It's a great game. Can't wait for 3.
It is the only one I've actually played in the series.
Is 2?
Yeah, 2's the only one I ever played start to finish. I had a friend loan it to me, and she's like, "You need to play this," and I was like, "This is a lot of fun and very mashy and very convoluted."
Yeah, for sure. I'd recommend that collection on PS4 has like it doesn't have all the games. It has all the games that aren't in the other collection, the 2.8 one. But
just the 3DS ones.
The 3DS one.
It just dodged the 3DS stuff basically.
Yeah, so you can play like the prequel game, Birth by Sleep, the first game, and the second game. You get the brunt of the series of that collection, and I'd recommend it. They're very fun games,
and they're well polished in their up-res.
Birth by Sleep is the best one. Fight me.
Birth by Sleep is the best one. This is objective fact.
It's also got Aqua, so like, how can you not?
Yeah, Aqua's the best. She got Norded. All right,
She got Norded, man.
She got Norded.
Well, I do have intent of picking it up since us being a family of people who like RPGs, and Annette is a huge Disney nut, and our daughter, by proxy, is pretty into Disney as well. I feel like it'll be a good one for them to play together, and possibly myself to play with Gwen or something, or Gwen to take on her own at some point.
Sure. I'm sure Kingdom Hearts 3 will probably have some kind of a here's what happened so far to catch people up, because they're really banking on that game selling a lot, and they're not going to want.
They're pretty much gonna have to in some capacity.
Yeah, because it's
FMV
so
or
complex. What's that, Greg?
some sort of FMV collection from
they've got to have something.
An edit, kind of like what they did in Advent Children, where they kind of did a little summary, like with cutscenes from Final Fantasy VII and like the bonus features, like just in case you don't know what's happening.
Just in case, yeah. I mean, it's been long enough since 2 that I feel like that's kind of required at this point.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's required viewing.
Yeah. Cool. Mm-hmm. Oh, I was gonna say, Peter, did you see that picture of Woody with white hair photoshopped on and Xehanort written on a shoe?
Yes, I was dying. Yeah,
so stupid.
You know what though? That's the kind of twist that Kingdom Hearts would 100% do. So,
oh my God, I'm gonna laugh so hard if that ends up being a thing in the game, and they think they're clever about it too.
Hey, do you remember when anger and hatred turned Scar from the Lion King into a Heartless? Because I remember.
I
just played that bit. So does Pepperidge.
Wow.
I totally forgot that was a thing.
Yeah, no, it's been way too long since I played 2. I liked that world too. The Lion King world. It was cool.
It was really cool. It was
with
neat
the
being
Pride Lands.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun. Okay, well, Peter, I want to hear about one more game that you've been revisiting, and it's not as old as the other 2, but Pokemon Ultra Moon came out like a year ago at this point, right?
Yeah. And I've been working on it for 7 months.
Okay.
It took me forever to actually find the willpower to beat this game, and not for lack of interest.
Did you play the original Sun Moon?
I did. That was the problem.
Okay, that's why. I felt the same way. I fell off of Ultra Moon pretty quickly for the same reason.
It doesn't iterate enough?
It doesn't iterate enough, or it doesn't iterate. It iterates. Most of the major iterations are at the very end. And in the post game. The post game is pretty radically different.
Which is great, because my biggest complaint about Sun Moon is that it didn't really have a post game besides the battle tree.
And this one adds a whole lot more you can do. That's a lot more exciting. They have the whole Team Rainbow Rocket thing, and I like the Pokemon games, and I really especially like Gen 7 in particular. I think they were a really big step up. And so I got Ultra Moon. It was actually a gift from Mike Salvato. I was very happy to receive that from him.
What a nice dude.
He's so nice. I love Mike. But the problem is that I beat Sun and Moon literally that same year. I beat Moon literally that same year. And playing it again, I'm like, well, this is very familiar. I just played this game, and do I really want to play this game again so soon? And the answer turned out to be, when I'm in the mood for Pokemon, I will sit this down, do a couple trials, and then put it back on the shelf for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Which ended up being how I beat it. And then last week, I was pretty much just like, you know what? I want to wrap this up because Let's Go is coming out, and I want to be able to say I did it. So I picked it up and powered through the final segment, which was really cool. I like the Necrozma stuff they add. They had a whole new storyline centered around the third legendary of the Alolan region, that trio of Necrozma, which is like an all-consuming entity that consumes the light from planets essentially and travels from dimension to dimension, eating their light. And now it's come to Alola, and
which is really smart, I would say, because I didn't know the lore of that Pokemon, but it's a really smart play by them to now potentially. They now have the potential to take Pokemon into space. Like, they can go to other planets that now presumably have other Pokemon or into alternate dimensions.
Yeah, I mean, the Ultra Beasts from Gen 7 are literally like extra dimensional Pokemon. Like, they're all creatures that are not classified as Pokemon, but you catch them in little balls and they can be on your team. So if it looks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's probably
right. Well, and then the original Pokemon Sun and Moon,
Porygon.
it's probably or a Deoxys. In the original Sun Moon, they had a very brief segment where you went through an ultra wormhole and fought against Lusamine, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then, it's you go back and that's kind of the end of it. And they talk about it, but it's not really a thing that you interact with that much. Whereas in Ultra Sun Moon, I'm aware that you have the ability to actually travel through the wormholes at will, and it's like something of a feature now to be able to
Yeah,
go in and catch special Pokemon.
yep, you can ride on Solgaleo or Lunala into a wormhole, and it's a little mini game that's controlled with the gyroscope on the 3DS. And it can lead you to other dimensions where you can find legendary Pokemon, other Ultra Beasts. In the main story, you go to the Megalopolis, which is like a world that was consumed by Necrozma, and you have to fight. Necrozma gets a new form it's Ultra form, where it's like it turns into like a giant light dragon, which is really cool looking.
Neat.
Okay.
And that fight is really cool, except for the fact that I one shot it. Because
Using what?
You're a dragon. I have a fairy type. You are weak to Moonblast.
Goodbye. It's like it's a blue eyes white dragon, and you've got a Flabebe who knows fairy wind.
Exactly. I'm sorry, Kaiba. You can't stand against my unstoppable flower baby. But really, and then they do some cool things with the Elite Four, the final fight that I enjoyed. But overall, I think Ultramoon is, if you haven't played any of the Gen 7 games, I feel like then it's a good enough place to jump in. But having played Sun and Moon, I really didn't like the changes to the story. I liked Necrozma, but I don't like what they did to Lusamine's character.
Or did they change her in Ultra?
They change. Well, they make it so her motivation is now she wants to stop Necrozma. So but they do the same weird family drama storyline from Ultramoon. It just gets cuts off when Necrozma shows up, and everyone's like, "Okay, we should set aside our differences and deal with Satan devouring the sun." Yeah, exactly. But it makes that plot feel a little unresolved. When I really liked the Sun and Moon for a Pokemon game had actually surprisingly good characterization, and I felt like Ultramoon did some of that, but left a lot of it on the floor for more legendary Pokemon stuff, which was a shame.
Gotcha.
Does it have any benefits if you have a save file from the original Gen 7 games? Not that I'm aware of, other than the ability to obviously you have the ability to use Pokemon Bank and transfer Pokemon over. So if you want to complete your Pokedex faster, that's a way to do it. But other than that, I don't think there's really a benefit to doing so. Other than it is kind of like a return trip to Alola if you're a big fan of the series and you really want to get technical and really want to experiment with another team. Maybe see some of the new features, because there are some cool new things they added, like Lycanroc has a third form now. That's pretty cool. I had him on my team.
What was like the Access Dawn, Duskin, or no? What was it before?
It's like the midday form, right?
Yeah, before it was like midday and midnight, and now it has dusk.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Yeah, I find that whenever the third version of a Pokemon game comes out, it's usually just an excuse for me to maybe like I'll pick a different starter, make a different team throughout the game, sort of like reshape the experience in my own way without really paying as much attention to. I mean, I pay attention to whatever's new or different in the third version, but like I have no illusions of picking up Pokemon Yellow, Platinum, whatever, and expecting it to be a radically different experience. I expect to basically have it be the same game with some tweaks.
That's fair enough, and that's basically what Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon are. And that's fine for what it is. I'm just, I was over the course of like 7 months trying to wrap it up. I was like, I mean, I feel like I like the Sun and Moon, OG Sun and Moon better, but this is still pretty good. It's no Black 2 and White 2, I think is the important thing to stress, where it's not a completely new story.
Okay. Yeah, those were pretty substantial upheavals, weren't they?
Take it with new characters and taking place after the originals and new locations and whatnot that were cool.
I really like that generation a lot, actually. It's one of my faves.
Gen 5 was great, I think they had to get really creative because they had to they had to invent a whole new 150 for that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't feel very strongly about the upcoming Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pikachu. Will I play them? Yeah. Am I super hyped? No, mostly because they feel kind of watered down to me from what I've seen.
That's
But
oh that's absolutely fair. I'm a little nervous about the implementation of Pokemon Go like mechanics because I really don't like Pokemon Go.
I'm not fond of it either. And I actually kind of started replaying Pokemon Joe just because my boyfriend plays. So every time we're out, he's like on his phone doing it anyway. So I figured, all right, I'll start catching them from time to time just because I'm going to be able to use it with Eevee and Pikachu in the future. But I've grown tired of even that. Like,
I think the app just barely works on my phone. Like,
oh, is it like a compatibility problem? Is your phone older or something?
yeah, it doesn't work. The gyro features don't work, so I'm missing some of that. And then it's just it eats battery.
It does, yeah.
It does, yeah.
I just don't find it super compelling. Like I don't have the motivation to catch them all and go. So that's probably if you don't want to catch them all, then there's not really much of a point, right? Like I
That's
don't
mostly
even
what it's about. It's the gotcha factor of like I just want more of the things.
yeah,
That
and I don't like the battle system in Go, so I'm glad
Yeah.
that Eevee and Pikachu at least has the traditional battle system.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm excited for that aspect.
me
Yeah.
too. I'm still excited for Let's Go. Just because it looks adorable. I like the fact that we're returning to Kanto. As a nostalgia trip, I think I'm going to enjoy it a lot. But yeah, the simplified mechanics and some of the things they've like. I'm just like, okay, I get you're trying to bring newcomers in on the series, but how do you
Yeah.
how do you water down Pokemon more?
Yeah, I think it'll be all right. I'm just not looking forward to it day by day, holding my breath on the edge
Oh
of
yeah,
my seat.
oh
But
yeah,
the new Pokemon for Switch, whenever that's announced, that's something that I will eagerly anticipate.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. That we're still getting a core game in 2019, so it all is not lost.
No, Let's Go definitely looks like it's going to be more geared towards Gwen, my stepdaughter. Like, I'm really excited for how she's going to react and enjoy it. Like, she was already stoked that like Eevee was featured because Eevee's her favorite. So there was lots of
Yeah.
Eevee squealing when we watched the video from E3. So she was
Aw.
pretty stoked on that. And like, yeah, it's one of those things where maybe this game just isn't quite for us because I'm definitely
Right.
feeling what you two both feel as well that it's nice seeing the familiar world, but yeah, the mechanics are kind of yeah. But I do like that aspect personally of it's encouraging you to get out and explore your world again using Pokemon Go to catch Pokemon, so it feels a little more hands-on. Like, yeah, I'm going out and catching them, but how well that's integrated, because yeah, the Pokemon Go is very meh. Like, I was definitely encouraged recently too. Being in Europe, I was like, I might want to catch a Mr. Mime, but then I have to
Yeah.
reinstall it, and no, I'm not going to bother, and because I just haven't played it enough to warrant the amount of space it's taking up in the battery sink. So.
Well, you do make a good point, and I think it's important to keep that perspective that not every game is going to be made for every type of player, every audience, every age group, every interest group. Like, it's okay if this one's more oriented towards kids because they obviously aren't ceasing to produce the sort of mainline Pokemon games. So
Yeah, no, the old games will never go away. I had this discussion with somebody about movies recently, where it was like we were talking about comic books and comic book movies, and it's like, well, I mean, if they change stuff, like the old stuff doesn't go away, you know, it doesn't invalidate your experience by opening that experience up to new people.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great. There's so many discussions that can be had about so many series. Just to throw out a name, mostly Star Wars, that
Oh,
can apply to as well. And
Absolutely.
people just need to kind of.
yeah, so
Progress.
it's actually interesting that we bring that up because I'm probably going to be I don't want to be a hypocrite here, but you want to talk about games being watered down. Something that
boy.
I have a serious issue with that I'm taking so much umbrage with is just today we got the announcement that Phantasy Star is coming. No, Alexa, I'm not talking to you. Phantasy Star is coming back. And we
Yay!
knew as of a few days ago that it was going to be a phone game.
No.
And so I know. So, I'm not partial to phone games, really. I've yet to find one that I've really wanted to sink my time into because I find that they're all like gotcha games. All are basically the same game, just with maybe a different battle system or something, but they all do the same thing of like log in every day to collect your bonuses. Try adding a friend to your friends list and summon them as your extra party member in battle. Now spend real life money if you want more draws of weapons or characters, whatever. And like some of them are better than others. Some of them balance the microtransaction aspect better.
Like Record Keeper.
Yeah, I think Record Keeper is a pretty good example.
And you like the opera one, Opera Omnis?
Opera Omnia, I actually thought was like decently fun. I just don't have a lot of long-term interest in playing these, I find. So when I heard that there was going to be a Phantasy Star game coming to phone soon, I was like, all right, maybe it'll be one of those like, greatest hits. I can summon past characters to my party, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We get the reveal today. It is IDOLA, Phantasy Star Saga. And the IDOLA thing, it's not idols. They've had the word IDOLA in a lot of past Final Fantasy like music tracks. It's just like a word that they keep using. I don't really know the origin of it. But...
You said Fantasy Star?
Oh, I'm sorry. Phantasy Star. Yeah.
It's okay.
I'm thinking about something I actually like. So
will this be the Final Fantasy Star? No, whatever.
Yeah. IDOLA Phantasy Star Saga. Sorry. It's been in a lot of Phantasy Star tracks. So this is a phone game upcoming 2018. And I think it looks awful. Mostly because, yeah. So, all right. So just to touch upon the point that you made earlier, the fact that this new phone game based on the Phantasy Star property exists does not invalidate my experience with past Phantasy Star titles. And I can go back and play Phantasy Star 1 through 4 whenever I want. I can do that. That's great. But Phantasy Star has lain dormant for a long time with the exception of Phantasy Star Online 2, which never came out in the US. So here I was hoping, okay, maybe this will serve as a way to reinvigorate the franchise and maybe it'll even lead to something else. Who knows? But what this is that like, it looks so cynical and so far removed from Phantasy Star's aesthetic that I don't even understand what they're trying to do with the Phantasy Star name. It's like, it looks like one of those, it's got like a turn-based RPG system. It's got a really cluttered interface, complete with all of the things that you would expect, a fast-forward option, auto battle, characters who look weirdly generic, and it's got tons and tons of moe. The main character that they revealed is this girl with pink pigtails who is super demure and shy and can't talk until she puts on this helmet and suddenly she's a battle maiden. She's wearing the shortest booty shorts known to man, which I don't think her character design is the worst I've ever seen in my life, but I think that the idea of, oh my god, she's so shy, but she can actually fight, it's okay. Like, stop doing that. Stop. It's like, it's so trite and so overdone. I've seen it a million times. And nothing about the way...
It's like the most Garbo of Garbo anime tropes.
Yes, and nothing about the way this game is designed. It also looks really low budget to me. Nothing about the art style or the aesthetic or even the interface smacks of Phantasy Star to me. The only Phantasy Star thing I've seen is... Thank you. Yeah, there are Rappies, the little chicks, the little yellow chicks that have appeared throughout...
Oh, that's what those were, okay.
Yeah, those are there. That's it. That's all I see that looks even remotely related to Phantasy Star. And so I think they're trying to pull more from Phantasy Star Online 2, which does delve a bit further into the kind of anime aesthetic than other Phantasy Star stuff. But I'm just like, this game could just not be for me and I just won't play it. And that's fine. But if this is, I swear to God, if this is like the last time they try to bring back Phantasy Star and they're like, no, nobody likes Phantasy Star anymore, I guess, so we're not going to get it. Like, no! This is not Phantasy Star. So it feels like sort of a, it feels like a cheap cash in on a name that has nothing to do with the actual series it's calling back to.
That's accurate. Point of view.
And maybe, you know what? The game's not out, so maybe it'll be fun. Maybe I'm judging it harshly and prematurely. That is entirely possible. But given the trailer and the screenshots, there's like a 95% chance that this is going to be exactly what I expect it to be, which is another low-budget phone game that expects you to log in every day. And they've talked about some of the systems already. They want you to log in. They're already doing a pre-registration bonus like every other gacha game, where if the pre-registrations reach 100,000 users, everybody gets a 5-star Kuna from Phantasy Star Online 2. Like that alone right there. Oh, a 5-star character. So they're going to be summons. And all the summons are going to have tiers.
So you're going to pull like garbage characters so they can encourage you to pull more, and it might psychologically trick you into spending like $1, which in turn feeds into your gambling addiction.
Yeah.
I'm only half being facetious there, because that is kind of It is kind of predatory.
It is,
Yep.
and I mean that's how the games are designed. They're designed to sort of elicit that feedback from the player to give you to drip feed to you pleasing sort of accomplishments, and then you're like, oh, cool. I've done all these things, but I can rank up just one more time if I spend $1 to do it today or whatever. Or I really want this one character and they're only available for 3 days. So blah blah blah.
Which is so much nicer when it's encouraged by gameplay.
It would
But
be fine if the game was good. And like again, I'm judging very early without having played the game, but I'm telling you, I'm watching this trailer again and it doesn't look good. It looks like a bad Flash game. It does not look like Phantasy Star, and it does not look polished or high quality to me.
And I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah, if they called it something else, we would have been like, okay, it's just that other thing.
Yeah, it
And
would have just
it's
been some
sure
phone
the
game.
art, good
But
job.
the fact that
Stuff.
the fact that they like teased it before they announced it, and they had that Fantasy Star 30th anniversary logo. Like this is a series with some clout, and they were clearly banking on that clout to draw attention to this announcement. And the announcement comes on, it's like, oh, this is another crappy mobile game based on a popular franchise, like what we've seen with Star Ocean, we'll probably see with Wild Arms.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh man, and Arc the Lad coming soon too. And
Yeah,
actually, they're announcing that Arc the Lad game next week.
Hopefully, it won't be a gotcha.
If it's, I'm not fond of phone games pretty much in any capacity, but at least if they made it a 2D tactical RPG like the old Arc the Lad games, that could actually work pretty well as a touchscreen game.
For like what, $14 somewhere in that bracket.
Yeah, I mean that could be okay. I'm not happy about it. I'd rather it be Switch 3S, whatever, a fully fledged console game. But that I would take over a. Oh, do you remember Elk from Arc the Lad 2? If you pay $10, you'll be guaranteed to get a 3-star Elk with your random draw. Like, F that. Come on. Stop just banking on people's nostalgia for past characters and make a good game.
yeah. I mean, there's a point where like the mobile market stopped being like friendly for like independent developers who are like, oh, you don't have the resources to make a console game. We could actually do something with this medium, and now it's just kind of a cesspool of these kind of apps. And
Yeah. This is something that I will continue to crusade against tirelessly. I mean, again, like some people, I mean, obviously people play them. People play the gacha games.
People are doing it. At least they have a medium to explore their creativity. It's just unfortunate. Yeah, as you said, there's a cesspool of mediocrity out there.
Yeah. I mean, at least things like Final Fantasy Record Keeper have some polish. And they do encourage you to spend money in fairly subtle ways, but they continue to update it. Like also
They
Final
really don't
Fantasy
do it in your
Record
face.
Keeper. Yeah, Record Keeper is about to get its 3rd official soundtrack release, and the music from Record Keeper is
So
great.
good. The
is
remasters
great.
are beautiful.
Yeah. So at the very least, something like that has things that even me, somebody who doesn't want to play the game necessarily, I can pull things out of that. I can appreciate the art. I can appreciate the music. And it's not just leveraging the name Final Fantasy without being anything remotely related to it. So that's the issue that I take with Fantasy
Because
Star.
the gacha isn't even the characters. Like it's like you're gonna get
like
the nostalgic characters you want, and they're so easy to get. Like you don't have to spend money to get these characters. You just go into these cheap little quests, and all they just want you to go in is just do it. It's just if to power them up, that's where the potential for sinking your actual hard-earned money into could be a thing. But they give you so much stuff that it's so easy to get so far in that game for free. If you want to be probably doing like the big crazy high level quests, I can see probably have to drop some dollars to like really fast track your Cloud or Sephiroth or whomever that use your big bad. But I've done more than enough that I have fun with it every now and again when I play it in fits and bursts, that I feel very satisfied with how my team performs, with how cool their abilities are, that I've never spent a cent on it.
Yeah, and I have a friend who's been playing Record Keeper faithfully since launch, and he has like every character, and he hasn't spent money on it just because he's diligent in checking back. So I think that's fine. Like I am totally happy for that game to exist and games on that level to exist. It's just when you see this stuff like IDOLA Phantasy Star Saga that it really feels like a cheap cash in. And sort of on that note, just today, weirdly enough, same day that we got an announcement for IDOLA Phantasy Star Saga, was the English release of DX2 Shin Megami Tensei, which is it's exactly what you think it is. It is the gacha version of a Shin Megami Tensei game for your phone.
It probably makes more sense.
Yeah, like given that Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner exists and Devil Survivor, and those are both games where you use your phone to summon demons, although they're tactical and turn-based RPGs. This is one where it's you're playing as somebody who gets an app on their phone. It's your phone, you know, your real life phone, and it allows you to summon demons, and you just engage in turn-based battles. You're like a member of a group called the Liberators who are fighting against a shadowy society. Blah blah blah. So it came out today. I downloaded it. I played it for half an hour, and then I was like, nope, this isn't for me. It's the same. It's the same as every other game in this setup, which is to say, if the Shin Megami Tensei Pantheon of Demons is enough to keep you interested in playing it, then you may like it. But if you don't like structurally how gacha games operate, you won't, because it did the thing where I started it. They were like, first go to your log screen and check your login bonuses. Okay, accept the gifts from the gift box. Okay, would you like to try adding a friend to your friends list? It was like, seriously, it's just, I don't understand. All these games are identical the way that they operate, and I just don't.
Where's the turn off tutorial button?
Yeah, I wanted to skip it, but the actual battles in DX2 Shin Megami Tensei play like a slightly simplified version of a Shin Megami Tensei battle system. So you have the press turns, and if you exploit an enemy weakness, you get like a bonus turn or whatever. And the production values for the in-game models are quite nice. They're 3D, and it did a little thing when I started the game where it was like benchmarking my phone, basically. Excuse me. I have an iPhone 8 Plus, so it's fairly new, and it looks beautiful. Like those models are super crisp and clean, and the production value is quite good. The art style, I think, leaves something to be desired. It feels like kind of weirdly low budget or amateur, maybe like B team effort. But if you're into Shin Megami Tensei a lot, you could check it out. I would just say don't expect anything but a gacha game with a Shin Megami Tensei skin. So that is out as of today, and then just like 2 weeks ago, I think we got the release of Star Ocean Animanesis, which is the
Star Ocean Onomatopoeia.
Yeah, Star Ocean Anemone. Thank you, Fighting.
Don't hurt yourself, kid.
Yeah, thank you. See, you got it. It's the Star Ocean gacha game. It is maybe a little bit closer to something like Mobius Final Fantasy, but it's basically got the Star Ocean battle system in it. And I will say that this is one of the highest production value looking phone games I've seen in this mold. So if you're a Star Ocean fan, this is another one where you get to summon characters from past Star Ocean games. It's all the same stuff. Would you like to add friends to your friend list and summon them in battle? Would you like to receive gifts from your gifts box? It's all there. But I will say that I think that the presentation is pretty nice and the localization is pretty sharp. I've actually enjoyed a fair amount of the text because you're playing as the captain of your own starship that kind of, you go through a warp drive and get lost in space, and your navigation robot is this weird little creepy robot bear who is kind of like Teddy from Persona 4, but
Star Ocean.
creepy in a different way. Less leery, more just like gigantic shining robot eyes up in your face. It's like, but the production values, like I said, are pretty good, and it really does have the Star Ocean battle system intact, albeit simplified. You're playing it with your thumb, and the entire thing you can just tap on the screen to mindlessly have your character run up and auto attack, or you can use your little special attacks in sequence. But it's polished, if nothing else. So I would say if you're longing for some Star Ocean, you may want to check that out. I'm just sick of it, guys. I don't like the gacha style. And in case you probably had no idea, right? It's not like I've indicated in any way that I hate gacha games.
No, as a long-standing fan of the RPG Fan Random Encounter podcast, I'm rather surprised to hear you bring this up now, Derek, after all these years of listening.
It sucks seeing these properties, because it does seem like a cheap cash grab. And even if we can say it's not ruining anything, but for a series like Phantasy Star, when it's been dormant for so long and this is the first thing from it we've gotten in ages,
there's that worry, that they're using it as their benchmark for sales.
And Star Ocean, Star Ocean hasn't had anything good since 2003. But
Yeah, because integrity and faithlessness was not good.
at the very least, I was excited for integrity and faithlessness, and then it was like, oh, this is not good. But at least they tried, and I would like to see them do so. Star Ocean as a franchise is one of those things where I wish it was something other than it is what it is. But
yeah, if Star Ocean Anamnesis allows for them to create a Star Ocean, what would it be, 6 at this point?
6, yeah.
That's closer in the mold, because I think Star Ocean 3 and 4 have plenty of redeemable things. I know 4 has some real bad characters.
I loved playing 4. I just muted all the cutscenes. Like,
yeah, 4 is fun as hell.
Yeah, the environments, the combat, like the.
Oh my god, yeah, Blood on the Keys, the main battle theme is so good.
It's so dope.
I've never played a Star Ocean, but it sounds neat.
Yeah.
The concept of space JRPG, I like.
Yeah, I still think Star Ocean 2 is probably the high point of the series, but actually, aren't you guys playing Star Ocean 2 for retro or something?
Alana's playing it on her own.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Yeah, I think Suiken's coming up at some point. Maybe that's what you're thinking. I don't
know. Phone games certainly are saturating the market, and it seems like at this point, if there's a franchise you like, you'll probably get a phone game out of it. So
I hope that it makes money for the real baseline one.
Yeah, that's my hope, and I know that I'm being quite negative about these here, and I want to give everything a fair shake, which is why I've tried downloading Star Ocean and DX2 Shin Megami Tensei and stuff. I want to at least give them a try before I write them off entirely. It's just I have yet to be surprised, and IDOLA Phantasy Star Saga does not look like it will surprise me in any meaningful way. So fingers crossed it proves me wrong. I would like to be wrong on that.
I mean, I'll just stick to Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, because at least in that mobile gacha experience, Seto Kaiba can tell me that I'm a 4th-rate duelist with a 3rd-rate.
That's the kind of talking to you need to keep you grounded.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
at least that one has some production value. They got all the voice actors back to record new lines. So
nice.
That was cool.
Yeah, it's always good. It's funny. I was actually talking about card RPGs the other day. I made I made this tweet that went like weirdly viral.
You were talking about Batten Kaitos, weren't you?
Yeah, Batten Kaitos, Lost Kingdoms, and the Phantasy Star Online episode 3.
Oh yeah, that was a thing. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, and I liked it. It was like a tactical RPG with cards.
It just kind of came out of nowhere, like, oh.
Yeah, they seemed to be a thing in that era for some reason, and there were other like Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories.
Yeah, Chain of Memories was fun.
It's weird that was a thing, like a hot thing, and then it completely died out. So.
Around what year was that?
2003, 2004.
Yeah,
early. How were CCGs doing, like Pokemon card game and Yu-Gi-Oh! And
that would have been around the time that trading card games were just blowing up.
So make those mechanics jive in. Yeah, because there was even like a Game Boy Pokemon card game version too.
Like, yeah, which was great. I loved it.
Oh, was it? Nice. I never played it.
Fun game, yeah.
It's like an RPG. Yeah. So we probably have a review in our archive or something, right? Yeah. Oh, it's also it is on the 3DS Virtual Console for like $5. So.
That's right. I do remember seeing it, which is what reminded me of it. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. Well, sorry to end on something of a sour note with all that ranting I did about phone games, but hopefully everybody has enjoyed being here today, and I hope listeners you've enjoyed the show. So we're going to wrap it up here. If you have questions, comments, or spare potions, you can email us at podcast@rpgfan.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at rpgfancom and like our Facebook page at facebook.com/rpgfancom. Subscribe to us on iTunes, please, please, please. Still haven't seen a single new review since I took over the show, so I'm going to just take that as a silent sign that y'all are loving it. So if you can leave us some feedback on iTunes or subscribe to us to the RSS feed, that would be great. We welcome your comments, questions, concerns, but never complaints. Damn it. Only positive feedback. No.
We have had some good emails, though, have we not?
We have.
Yeah. Spoken of those.
And I truly do hope that everybody is enjoying the show. So today we left off without talking about any Octopath Traveler, but we will get back to that on the next episode because all of us would love to dig in more. So in case you're wondering where that is, it's coming. So.
Yosh. Where can they find you in the interwebs, Derek?
Oh, they can find me on Twitter at EmbryonX. That's at EMBRYONX. Greg, where can they find you?
They can find me at Greg Delmage on Twitter and pretty much anywhere, IMDb, whatever. You can also find me on season 4 of Unreal TV.
It's true.
I'm gonna plug
He's an
myself.
actor
In the
on
first
the
2
television.
episodes, it was great. Go watch it on Hulu, or if you're in the UK, on Amazon.
And the name of it is what? One more time?
Unreal TV.
Yes. So go watch Greg on the televisions. He is swell in so many ways.
I think so.
I think so too. And Peter, where can we find you on the interwebs?
You can always find me at I Have Fury on Twitter, or PeterT@RPGFan.com if you want to shoot me an email.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We're glad that you listened to the show and hope you continue to enjoy it as we're coming up on episode 150.
Woo! Woo! Give us fun ideas.
Give us some ideas. Yeah. So we're going to sign off here today. For me, Greg, and Peter, thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you all later.